Jack Sheehy was trouble. Everybody in the village knew it. He drank too much, he fought too much, he chased women too much, and on occasion he'd take a coin out of the collection plate at church. No one expected, though, that it would lead him directly to an encounter with the devil. It happened like this. One day, Jack was sitting in a pub, having a cup of cider, when someone comes up next to him, sits down. There's a strange man, dressed all in red and black, very well dressed, like a rich man. Goes to Jack, he says, "Jack, I'm a big fan of your work, but I think it's time you came along with me." Now Jack turns to him and says, "Come with you? Where in the world would I be going with you?" "Oh, you know where you're going. You see, Jack, I'm the devil. And I've given up on waiting. I think you ought to come along with me now." Now Jack started to think fast. He said, "How about one more drink for the road?" So he persuaded the devil to sit down. They had a drink together. Jack said, "Oh, looks like I'm all out of money. But I've got an idea. Why don't you turn into a coin? I'll give you to the bartender. Then when he's not looking, you can turn back. And then you can go. We'll have one last trick, and I'll go with you to, well, the devil knows where." He said, "Oh, no, that won't matter. Just come on with me." He's like, "Well, if you can't do it." The devil said, "Can't? Who says I can't?" And right then and there, the devil turned into a little copper coin. At which point, Jack picked it up, dropped it in his pocket, right next to a silver cross that he was keeping there, pulled out another coin from his pocket, paid the barkeep, and left. When he was outside of the pub, he heard a horrible scream coming right from in his pocket. "Ah! Jack, you've tricked me!" He says, yes, I did. And I think we need to make a deal." He says, "I don't make deals, Jack." He says, "Well, then you're not getting out." He says, "Fine, what is it?" "I say, you leave me alone for 1 year. Give me the chance to get my affairs in order, and then I'll go with you." He says, Fine, 1 year, but then I return." So Jack reached in, pulled the coin out of his pocket, threw it on the ground, changed back into the devil, and he disappeared in a poof of red and black smoke. So Jack figures, all right, I can change my ways in 1 year. That can't be too hard. But once someone is the way they are, it can be very hard to change. I mean, he tried. But sometimes he just couldn't stop himself from having that extra drink, from getting into that fight, to chasing that woman, taking a little of something that wasn't his. He thought, well, at least I'm trying. And so the year passed. So it was 1 year later. Jack was headed home at night. He was cutting through an apple orchard. He's walking along and he hears a voice. Okay, Jack, your year is up. It's time to come along with me. He says, oh, Mr. Devil, fancy seeing you here. Jack started to think again. He says, well, I'm sure we've got a long way to go. Why don't you scramble up into that apple tree and grab me some apples for the road? Devil says, there's no need for food where we're going. Besides, why don't you climb up? He says, well, I've got these bad knees. I took a nasty fall before. But I understand if you can't do it. Devil said, can't. There's that word again. Of course I can do it. So the devil turns towards the tree and springs right up onto a branch, picks 3 apples. Jack rushes over, pulls out his pocket knife from his pocket, unfolds it, and scratches the sign of the cross into the tree. Once again, that horrible scream. "Oh, Jack, you wretch, you tricked me!" Says, yes, I did. And I say, one more deal. Says, you know I don't make deals. Jack says, well, you don't make a deal, you're not getting down. Fine. What's your deal? Says, I want you to leave and never come back for me. Ever. Oh, thought about it, and a grin spread across his face. He's like, now, Jack, think about what you're asking. Says, I know what I'm asking you. You don't ever come back for me. Says, okay, Jack, but remember, you made the deal. Jack went over, scratched out the sign of the cross. The devil dropped down and disappeared in a puff of smoke. The time went by. Day after day, year after year. Jack tried to change his ways, and a little bit. Though, as I said, it's not easy for a man to change. Then it happened one night, after a righteous night on the town, drinking, fighting, chasing women. Jack blacks out. The next thing he knows, he's standing next to a gravestone with his own name on it. Jack had died, but his soul, his spirit, didn't go anywhere. He says, well, that's a fine thing. Now I'm a ghost. I can't eat. I can't drink. Women are of no use to me. Well, there must be some misunderstanding. I know. I'll go to heaven and ask them to let me in. So he walked and he walked and walked until he got to the edge of heaven. He went up to the gates. He says, listen, this is Jack Sheehy. There's been a mistake. You've got to let me in. Then a heavenly voice said, for your many sins and transgressions on earth, you, Jack Sheehy, shall not be allowed into heaven. So Jack turned around and left. He figured, well, if I'm not going to go into heaven, I must be able to go into the other place. So he walked, and he walked, and walked, and now he got to the edge of the other place. And he knocked on the big iron door. Clang, clang, clang. And who should open it but that devil that he knew so well? He says, well, if it isn't my old friend Jack. He says, please, devil, I died, but my soul's been stranded. I can't eat, can't drink, can't do anything. I tried to go to heaven. They won't let me in. Surely he'll have me here. He says, Jack, don't you remember? We had a deal. Now, Jack was there. He says, well, what am I supposed to do now? Just wandering about the earth, going through the darkness? Well, said, I think I may have a solution for you. He reached behind him and picked up a hot coal. Coal right out of, well, you know. He tossed it to Jack. He said, here, use this to light your way. Jack caught it. It was hot in his hands because, well, you know that those who are bad get burned by the fires of that other place. So Jack wandered on. But he thought of an idea. He couldn't hold the coal in his hands. He'd just need a lantern. Now what he did is he found this big old pumpkin, and he pried off, and he cut out a hole on the top, and he reached in and pulled out all the guts of it, and just for a lark, he carved a grinning face on it, just like his own. And he dropped the coal inside. And he carried that, and his hands were cool. And he wandered on and on, carrying his lantern. And people who followed him would find that trouble awaited if you followed that lantern's light. They tell you, don't go following that light, because that's the light of Jack-o'-lantern. And every year, on October 31st, we light our own lanterns. For that is the day when the world of the living and the world of the dead are at their closest. We hope that souls, just like those of Jack Sheehy, Jack-o'-lantern, and others, maybe we can light their way home. The end.